Real quick, I kind of wanted to just touch on, do you have to sell in order to buy? There's a lot of folks that get into this situation, and it can be kind of a sticky situation. You've got an existing home, you need to upgrade, you need to find something bigger, or even maybe you're looking to downsize. Kids have grown and gone, whatever you need to do, whatever your situation in life is, there's always going to be a need to move around. And if you have to sell your home in order to buy the next one, as far as the financing goes, it can really put you in a bind, because then what do? How do you go about it? In this market right now, you really can't afford to try and put your house up for sale and then try and buy another one, because this seller over here of the house you're trying to buy doesn't really want to wait for you to sell yours, because chances are there is another buyer that doesn't need to sell. So you can kind of see how that creates a kind of a tough situation. So what can you do? First thing I'm going to tell you is, regardless of your situation, prep your existing home for sale. Let's do a walkthrough. Let's figure out what we need to do. If we need to address any maintenance items, we need to do this, that, and the other thing to prep the house. And I don't just mean prepping it and getting it cleaned. I mean prepping it, taking photos, basically having your house as ready to go as it can possibly be without putting it on to the MLS. Because depending on what our next step is, we still are going to need to have your house ready to go, regardless of what that next step is. So that kind of leads into my next question then. So what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And what I mean by that is do we put your existing house up for sale first and then go find another house and hope that we can find the next house in the timeline that it takes to sell your house? Or do we go find the next house first, and then as soon as we find that right one, we go back and put your house up for sale, contingent on your house selling? And that's a tough decision. And it really depends on everybody's unique situation, because no one person is in the same situation as the other. So it really just depends. And that's where, I can sit down with you. We have that conversation. We play the scenario game of, okay, if we do this, then this, what is the cause and effect of what we're trying to do here? And that's a huge thing. We want to make sure that we're going about it the best that we possibly can for you. And I want to be able to work, like I said, as much as I can to try and make that situation as best as it can. So, and there's a couple of things that you can look at, is again, making sure that your financing is in order. So while you're prepping your house, let's make sure you're getting in contact with a lender. We can make sure we're working behind the scenes to get that aspect of it get situated. And again, we want to be specific. We want to make sure that we're working through that process. So I'm talking not just the pre-qualification. Ideally, if we have to overcome the sale of a house, we almost really want to have as much financing done on this side as we possibly can. And that may mean actually going through and doing a full underwrite on your file. A lot of lenders, if you kind of ask them to, they will go through and actually do a full underwrite. So, they'll send all of your documents all through underwriting, just like you were buying a house, but basically without having a house to attach to it. And that can really look real beneficial for you down the road, because if we go and write an offer on this house that's contingent on the sale of this house, but this buyer knows that your financing is 100% complete. You have been through the process. You have a fully underwritten file with conditional approval. That's going to make this seller of this house that you're trying to buy think long and hard about being able to accept you as a buyer, because we know that financing is there. And that's usually a big question mark for sellers is the financing for the buyer going to go through? Are we going to get all the way to the closing table and this buyer realizes he can't buy this house? That's a terrible situation. I've been in that situation. I've had sellers in that situation. I've had buyers in that situation. And that's terrible. You don't want to try and do that, and you want to try and avoid that as much as possible. And then one of the last things to consider is possession after close. If you have to list your house first, can we get some time after close to be able to retain possession of that before you have to move into the next one, to try and alleviate some of the strain on buying the next one. So lots of things to consider. Again, it just comes down to just having that conversation with me. Let's figure out what the best course of action is for you individually.